Hello students, this is Mr. Schulke. I am going to make a quick video to show you how to analyze, using Google Sheets, numerical data that has set responses. And what does that mean, set responses? Let's look at this question. On a scale from 0 to 10, how frequently have you experienced feelings of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, or hopelessness during distance learning? 0 meaning never and 10 meaning all of the time. Now, if you remember, we wrote this question, so it had a little slider, and you had to select a whole number between 0 and 10. And that means that we had limited responses. There are only 11 different ways people could respond. So let's do the same thing we did when we were analyzing non-numerical data. What did we do? We counted the frequencies of different responses. We can do the same thing with this numerical data. So let's make a data table to organize what our data looks like. Response and count. Now, what are our responses? It could have been 0 or 1 or 2. I'm going to show you a trick. Highlight 0, 1, 2, and let's drag this down to row 12 or row 13. And what did it do? By highlighting 0, 1, 2, the computer can tell that there's a difference of 1 between each row. And if I drag that little blue square, it continues the series of numbers. Now we're going to use the COUNTIF function again. So we start with an equal sign anytime we're going to insert a function. Equals COUNTIF, open parentheses, and put in our range. Where does our range start? A2. Where does our range end? The end of column A, so we just put an A. So from A2 to basically A infinity, comma, and what's our condition? Match it to this cell, C3. Okay. Now you guys know probably, if you watch the video on non-numerical data, that we are going to copy and paste this function all the way down the column. So we want to hold all of this constant. We want to definitely make sure that our reference to our data range stays constant. So I'm just going to put dollar signs in front of all of it. It's all going to stay the same. And then I'm going to hit enter. And it counted 11 people that said 0. Now, if I drag this all the way down the column, it should copy that. So what do we have? Did it work right? Is our range correct? Yes. Is our condition correct? Yes. What about the next one? Yes. Okay. It copied and pasted the function all the way down. Now let's make sure that we counted all the students that responded by using the sum function equals the sum of all of these. So 11 plus 17 plus 14 plus 16, etc. should add up to 160 because we have 160 students that responded to this. 160, look at that. Let's put some borders around the cells in this table just to make it look nice. Let's put the sum in kind of a light gray color, and let's put the headings in kind of a light gray color. And we'll put this part of the table in an even lighter gray color. Okay. And let's make the text in these cells bold because it's headings. Look at that. All right, now we have all this data. We know how to quickly make a data table out of it, or a chart. It is a data table. We're going to make a chart out of it. Click the Insert Chart button, and it gives us different kinds of charts. Now, everybody's favorite that they're most familiar with seems to be a pie chart. So let's start with a pie chart. And before we know if we're going to take the time to label this and make it pretty, what does that tell us? Well, let's look at it really big. It tells us that just about the same number of students gave all of the 11 different responses. There wasn't a whole lot of difference. Not a whole lot. It's pretty evenly distributed between the 11 different responses. So answers were kind of all over the place. So that doesn't really tell us much. What if we insert a different kind of chart to see if we can make more sense out of this visually? A column chart tells us basically the same thing. All the columns are almost the same height. These charts aren't showing us a whole lot other than the fact that it was pretty evenly distributed. Some people experience depression not at all, some people experience it all the time, and a lot of people are somewhere in the middle. So what I might like to know is, on average, how do people feel? What is the average score? So remember, the term for an average is the mean. There's another type of average called the median, which means out of 160 people that responded, which answer was right in the middle if we put them in order. So let's use the average function to calculate the mean. Average, and our data range is A2 to A. Hey, there's our mean. That's too many decimal places. I don't need 4.89375. How can I change that? Well, here's one way. Format number. You can do this anytime there's a number in a cell to make it appear a certain way. It can be a number, it can be a percent. You can even format it a custom way. And this is one way to change the number of decimal points you're going to get. So for instance here, if for my format I type 0.00, that tells the computer only display 2 decimal places, please. I'm going to apply that. 4.89 is our average. Okay. Our median, we use the median function. A2 to the end of column A. Our median was 5. Now, that's actually pretty useful data. We could use that in writing a report about this survey. We could say that out of 160 students surveyed, the average response out of 10 was 4.89, and the median response was 5. Now, you might remember that there are other functions we can use. We can use the min and the max function to determine the minimum and maximum values within a range. Now, we already knew what those were because looking at our data table, some people did say 0 and some people did say 10, but it's useful to know how to use those functions. So this is how we might analyze numerical data that has set responses, limited responses, only a certain number of ways people could respond. This is great when you're using Likert scales that score things from 0 to 10, 1 to 5, etc. It's a good way to analyze your data. Find out what the average response is, find out what the median response is, and take a look and see how it's distributed. It's very useful information. Okay, that's it for this video. I'll make another video on different types of numerical data. I hope that you got something out of it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.